Welcome to our next lecture on multiple alleles and sex-linked traits. All right, so let's quickly review multiple alleles or start with multiple alleles, depending on what year you're watching this. Multiple alleles are the fact that sometimes some genes have more than two alleles to code for the gene. Sometimes they have three or more. All right, for example, our blood typing. So blood typing has four different ones. Nope, three different ones. Sorry, three different genes, right? They have A, B, and O. I was looking at my side. They have A, B, and O. So what it is I would be the same as, sometimes we call it OO, right? IA would be the same as AA or AO. BIB would be the same as BB or BO, and AB would be the same as AB. It's just two different ways to write it with the I's or not, but we have three different alleles and different combinations of them, which now gives us four different types of phenotypes we can have. We're still only going to get two alleles per person because you still get one allele from your mom and one allele from your dad, right? It's just that there's three that are floating around in the general population. Okay, so first we're going to talk about doing an actual cross with multiple alleles. This says show a cross between a mother who is heterozygous. Let me get my pen working. So heterozygous, let's keep in mind that hetero means different. So heterozygous for B. Our B options are B, B, or BO. Which one is the different one? BO, right? And a father who is heterozygous for type A. We've got AA or AO. Our heterozygous, our different one is AO. So we put those on our box, BO and AO. We cross them, bring them down and across like we did the last 2 weeks. Okay, and we end up with 25% AB, 25% A, 25% B, and 25% O. So we have multiple different phenotypes to go with our genotypes. All right, and for our phenotypes, we just mentioned not the second letter, just the type it is. So 25% type B, 25% AB, 25% type A, 25% B, and 25% O. Okay. Next, we come to the fact that some genes are polygenic. So polygenic means it's more than one gene that's going to control your trait. So the other way, it was like more than one allele for a gene. Now we're talking more than one gene for a trait. Polygenic traits are going to be determined by more than one gene, and most traits are going to be polygenic. Okay. So most traits have multiple genes that are going to go and play a role in it. The traits that are polygenic are going to be traits that have variation. So if you look around the classroom or look around like just the general population, and we see people who have different variations of things. So like not dimple in your chin and no dimple in your chin, not hitchhiker's thumb or a non-hitchhiker's thumb. Things that are kind of between, like skin color, eye color, height, are all polygenic, right? So eye color, height, skin color. There you go. So now let's look at our chromosome types. All right, so in humans, we have 46 chromosomes. We know this, we've done it. So here's a picture of our 46. In addition to the 46, you have two sex chromosomes. The two sex chromosomes are going to be X or Y. Females have XX, males have XY. We've talked about this when we've done meiosis and stuff. So the two sex chromosomes are called sex chromosomes. All the rest of them are called autosomes. So you can have diseases or traits that are autosomal. So that would be a trait on an autosome. Or you can have traits that are sex-linked. That would be a trait on a X chromosome. So when we talk about who determines the sex of a child, right, what you need to realize is mom's XX, right? Here's mom up here. All she can give is an X. So everybody all around the world got an X from their mom. That's your only option, okay? Dad has XY, so dad has the option of giving an X, and when dad gives the X, you've got your female babies. And when dad gives the Y, you end up with your male offspring. So dad's the one that's going to determine the sex of the baby. It depends on which sperm meets the egg. So if it's an X, it's a girl because it meets with mom's X. If it's a Y, it's a boy because it meets with mom's X and becomes XY. So you got 50-50, right? Look at our Punnett square, 50-50 chance boy or sex-linked traits are going to be our specific traits that are carried on those chromosomes that we were just talking about. So these traits are going to be located on the X chromosome. The Y chromosome is really short and doesn't carry many traits on it. So we tend to focus on X, all right? When we're talking about an X-linked trait, keep in mind that our females are XX, our males are XY. So a man only has a single X to carry the trait. So all traits, they're either going to have or not have. They don't have another letter to kind of cover up the first one. There's no option of heterozygous for males, all right? Where females can carry. Females can have that heterozygous version because they have two X's. So the females, let me erase that writing because those came out in the wrong order, but that's okay. Females can have X with a trait up here, and so a trait up here and an X with a trait up here, right? Where males only have an X with a trait up here and a Y, right? So females can carry, they can have one of each, males have it or don't have it. So recessive sex-linked traits are going to always be seen in males. There's no chance of it covering it up. And sex-linked traits are more common in males because they can't be carriers. Here's our example number 1 of crossing a sex-linked trait. This is going to be the same as crossing everything else that we've crossed this year. Remember when I did our first cross and I used like, not letters, but like shapes to show you? What you need to do is you need to remember that this X with an H is together. It's one thing, right? These X's with H's, think of it as one letter moving across. So our first box, we bring our X and H down, XH over. We bring our XH down, XY over, right? Down and over, and we end up with a kind of mishmash of results, right? What you need to pay attention to when you're answering questions about sex-linked traits is how the question is asked. So this says we've got half the sons unaffected and half the sons having hemophilia. It's not half of the children, it's half of the sons, right? So what's the chances of having an affected son? Of all these kids, this one is affected. So the chance of having an affected son is 25%. Right? Even though half of the sons have hemophilia and half don't, I didn't say if you have a son, what's the chance of them getting hemophilia? I said, what are the chances of having a son? So what's the chance of having an affected daughter? Neither of our daughters are affected, so that'd be 0%. What's the chance of having a carrier? This one is the only one carrying because it's heterozygous, so that would be 25%. And what's the chance of having a child with the disorder? Only this one has the disorder, so that would be 25% again. Now, if my question said, if you have a daughter, what are the chances she will have hemophilia? I'm looking at this. None of my girls have hemophilia, so 0%. Right? If I had a son, so I'm already saying I have a son, so I'm only looking at the last 2 squares. What are my chances that he would have hemophilia? That's 50%. Okay, so you have to be very careful with the wording of the question. Next one, color blindness. So here's my cross, right? We're going to cross them. Okay. My color blindness, right now I have a father who is color normal, a mother who is color blind. Okay, so I made my little key up the top. What are the chances of having an affected son? So out of all of these people, what are the chances of having an affected son? That's affected and that's affected. So 50% chance of having an affected son. What's the chance of having an affected daughter? 0. None of them are affected. What's the chance of having a carrier? These 2 carry it, right? So that would be 50%. What's the chance of having a child with the disorder? Right? Only 2 of these have it. So let's do 50. And then finally, if you have a son, what is his chance of being colorblind? So if I know I'm pregnant and I have a boy, what is the chance the boy will be colorblind? 100%. Right? Because both my boys are colorblind. That's just a different way. That's a different question than that first question. What's the chance of having an affected son? So you have to be really careful with your reading. Ask me questions you got in class. That's the end.